Fire Chief, a Spirit Calling. It was just after the long weekend of August 2002. Weeks earlier, the wildfires in Quebec had taken a heavy toll. I had a chance to meet with the fire chief as a forest fire raged across the river from us. We lived in a forest wilderness, and fire is always a summer concern. Many firemen came and got the fire under control, much to everyone's amazement. Later, the fire chief came to see us. He thanked us for calling them so soon, as the fire could have been much worse. From there, we had an enlightening talk. The fire chief was a kind man who seemed very open to human energy treatments and questioned what I did. He came back to see me days later on another matter. I was surprised to see a fire truck in our driveway. Honestly, I thought we were being evacuated from more wildfires, but it was for another reason. One of his crew was very ill. As he put it, "I have known this man most of my life. I feel he may not make it. Do you think you can help him?" He spoke with such emotion. I felt this was a dire circumstance. So, of course, I agreed to help him, if I could. The ill man had not eaten for many days. He was nauseated, confused, very shaky, and weak. The seasoned firefighter, whom I will call David, was in dire need of help. It was confirmed to me that he had already had 2 trips to the hospital emergency, being treated with medication and then again with a stronger medication, which did nothing. As the chief said, he is fading fast. He was tearful in telling me, "I feel we are going to lose him." So we made a time to meet, and until then, I would pray for this very fragile man. The next morning, I received an urgent call. It was the fire chief. "Sue, can you come now? It's urgent. It's getting really bad, and I'm worried. I will pick you up." I told him I will get ready. I prayed, and a vision came to me to bring some white pine boughs and some bear medicine. Soon, a fire rescue vehicle was in my driveway, and off we went. The drive was quite pleasant with the chief and his many questions of therapeutic touch. He seemed fascinated by it all and the stories he had heard. Soon we arrived at David's home. When I met David, he was so depressed. He rarely lifted his head to talk to me, mostly looking at the floor, walking slowly, careful not to fall. His deeply concerned wife was close by. I could feel and see her stress. She thanked me for coming and said she would be outside while she left us to talk. It was a painful conversation. I could not help but see how his hands shook and noted his general conversation of no hope. All I could offer was a therapeutic touch treatment. David was open to being smudged with sweetgrass. I got him comfy and started with the treatment. Laying the white pine boughs on him, he held the bear medicine tightly. Shortly into the treatment, I tapped into some areas of trauma in his auric field, while he dreamily started to speak to me of a call he had that came to his mind. A call to go deep into a forest access road. There he found a missing man who was dead in a truck that had been there for some time. David then said, "I have come across things like this before. It seemed after this, I could not function very well. I don't understand what happened to me." It was like he was having an awakening. He broke down and cried. While he shed those tears, I felt the room becoming electrified. I sat close by observing and listening to him. Then, a vision appeared of a young boy standing next to him. I described him as best as I could, asking, "Did you lose a son or nephew? A boy who I feel is close to you is here." David said, "No, I didn't lose anyone. I don't know what you were talking about." Again, I mentioned, "This young boy is not leaving." I was at a loss to understand what I was seeing, so I let it be for a while. As I continued the energy work, it was as if the boy was concerned, patiently waiting and watching. About 15 minutes passed. Then David's eyes shot open and he said loudly, "Oh my God. Yes, oh yes, I did lose someone. You described him perfectly." He was excited now and telling me of a neighbor's son whom he had raised as well. In a ways, he was just like my son. It had been a year almost to the day that boy died in a car crash. It felt like my hair stood on end. The air was electric around us still. David was devastated, sobbing in between the words in his grief. He wondered how he could have forgotten the boy he had loved like a son. I said, "Sometimes we block things that are too painful to remember or acknowledge. Then one day it all comes back on us like a storm." He talked and talked of the boy and how much he missed him and the good times they had. I was so very moved I cried too. Then the boy came to me again, smiling. This time, showing me a dinner table set with a spaghetti meal and chocolate cake as well. So, Once David had slowed down talking, I mentioned that vision to him, explaining, "Sometimes spirit comes to us and they are hungry." I went on to tell him how I still cook a favorite meal for my mom on significant days to honor her spirit. He thought that was really nice. I continued, "This boy has come to you hungry, perhaps for a reason. He is still here and showing me the food. Can you cook for him?" David then told me he always did. Before David could go on, I said, "He wants his favorite, your spaghetti dinner." That was it. David cried. He looked at me in total disbelief. He even started to laugh. He asked, "How did you know?" All I could say was, "He showed me, and he also showed me a chocolate cake." That was indeed the boy's favorite meal, David happily confirmed. I could hardly believe my eyes. Here was a man that a couple of hours ago who was listless, fragile, and seemed at death's door. Now he had a bounce in his step, was smiling, laughing with the most incredible sense of humor I have ever heard. I can't repeat what was said there, but I still laugh when I think about it. He poured us some coffee and we continued. I felt so grateful and humbled to help, leaving him smiling and full of hope. His happy wife hugged me and thanked me. I will never forget her saying to me, "Thank you. You brought my husband back to me." She called me later. They were now getting ready to go shopping for the ingredients for the spaghetti dinner and cake for that night. I mentioned after they eat to put the extra plate out in the forest with the pine branch and few other things. It was a gesture to the boys' spirit. They were both so very excited to do this. It was an awesome drive back home with the fire chief who was so happy. Being relieved, very hopeful to have his assistant back. I thought of the caring and compassion the chief had for his crew, and later it brought me to tears. I soon heard David was eating again and feeling good. He was back on the job in a few days. With his amazing sense of humor back, he was his old self once again. Well, maybe not completely old, as he'd experienced something else. He was touched by a spirit of love. Over the years, I have found PTSD is a vortex of triggered trauma and emotions. Emotions that can overwhelm us are buried deep in our subconscious. It is said 90% of our population has some degree of PTSD. I know it very well from the life I have led. It's a teacher with lessons for our growth. Yet some traumas are more severe and overlap than others. Each one of us is unique, and so is our healing. Sometimes the healing we need is assisted by our departed loved ones. I believe and have seen they come back in times of our need to help us. Love is the healer. God bless all our first responders, putting their lives on the line. Many see horrors that cannot easily be unseen. Thank you for your service. May our Creator watch over you all and your families too. Once we understand the roots, we can water the tree with spiritual nourishment, reaching out of our earthly darkness to receive the light once again. Thanks for your interest. To be continued. Like and subscribe. More to come.